Hello everybody, my name is Aceface. Today I wanted to talk about Marauders. Marauders, the biggest and baddest battleships you can fly, and probably the most mightiest ships you can fly in HiSec, maybe coming close to freighters. The thing that I wanted to discuss was that are Marauders worth it? And the short answer is I think yes, I think they're definitely worth it. They're definitely worth the train to, and they're definitely worth the ISK and skill investment that they require. The special thing about Marauders is that they are really powerful battleships. They're really powerful, extremely high DPS, and extremely good tank. Compared to other battleships, for PVE, these sort of outclass all other battleships, like below, pirate battleships, faction battleships. They're just so much better than the other battleships for PvE. Now, in this video, I wanted to discuss if they're worth it for PvE. I'm not talking about PvP because I'm not too experienced with that. It's not my thing to talk about. But when it comes to PvE, I definitely feel like they're worth it. So, how do Marauders work? Well, Marauders are Tech 2 battleships. They're upgraded variants of the classical battleships. So you can see that this is a Kronos, and this looks very similar to the Megathron battleship, but it is upgraded. It looks a bit beefier, a bit chunkier hull. It's got a chunkier bridge. It's got overall a chunkier design. And the unique thing about Marauders is that they can fit Bastion modules. And the really good thing about Bastion modules is that they make your armor HP or your shield boosting per second extremely buffed. Look, turn this off, 172 HP per second, turn it on, basically doubles our HP per second of this armor repair. So our armor repair suddenly becomes as if we have 2 armor repairs for the price of 1. Same capacity usage, same slot layout, just straight up doubles the amount of armor we repair every second. Not only does it increase the armor HP per second or the shield boost, same thing would go if we had a shield booster, by the way. We also have better resists, so you can see that these are the resists. Turn on Bastion Module on, we get really good resists, and I've barely got any resist modules in this ship too. I've got just this Multispectrum. Okay, this is a pretty good Multispectrum Energized membrane, but a damage control. We've not got too many resist modules. We could have more, and we still got really good resists. By default, they've got really good resists. Bastion module makes it even better. Another great thing about Marauders is that they've got really good bonuses to their tank. So this Kronos has an armor HP amount bonus. So just straight up armor repairs on the ship are going to be more effective than they otherwise would be. Same thing with shield boosters on a golem, and it's just that all tank modules are by default more powerful. Then they get even more powerful because of the Bastion module. Then they get even more powerful because we've got resists. So that's how their tank is so overpowered compared to everything else. But the Bastion module doesn't just do that. It also does so that the DPS is straight up doubled. Improves rate of fire by twice. So if we turn it off, DPS, 1600 DPS. That's still a pretty high amount of DPS for a battleship, but turn it on, we just straight up double our DPS, and double the rate of fire. You can see that we have damage per second, just increases to one of these slots gives 700 DPS. Like one of these damage module of these weapon slots gives the DPS of a cruiser or low tier battleship. Another great thing about the Marauders is that they're really versatile. They have very extensive amount of utility high slots, so they only have 4 gun slots because their guns by default are buffed. They've got a very good hull bonuses to their guns. If you just have 1 gun, you can see it does 700 DPS. So the guns on these ships are just generally speaking going to be very effective. And then we've got a bunch of free high slots that we can do different things with them. Marauders actually get bonuses to their tractor beam, so they're a lot more effective. They're also they've got further range than normal, and they pull in fast, so you can grab loot very quickly. And then you can put anything else here. You can put a Salvager, you can put a Nosferatu. You've got a lot of flexibility with these utility high slots that you've got here, because you can't fit any more guns. You can only fit max 4 guns. Then there's a bit of a downside with the Bastion module. The Bastion module gives all these buffs I was talking about. Really good tank, resists, active HP per second, DPS, at the cost of one thing, being completely immobile for 30 seconds. And that's the price you pay. Basically, you can think of it like this. You've got a massive, big, hulking battle machine that's just sitting in place, dishing out crazy damage and tanking so much damage. That's what Marauders are, and they're really powerful for that. So here, we've got basically a battleship that has got tank that is so much more powerful than any other kind of battleship in any other kind of class. It's got DPS that outperforms all other battleships. and it's got also pretty good range. That's something I forgot to mention, is that the Bastion module gives really good range to your guns as well. So got a good range, tank, resists, everything really is really buffed here. But it can only stay in place. That's the main thing that's problematic. And this can be problematic in, say, you're doing ratting and nullsec. Well, you got enemies in the system, you can't just warp out. You have to wait 30 seconds until that Bastion cycle has ended. Then you can warp out. You can obviously fight without the Bastion module, but then it's like, why are you using Marauder? Then may as well not use a Marauder. It's still a powerful battleship, but it's not at all as powerful as it would be with the Bastion module on. So we've got an extremely powerful battleship. Another downside to this is, apart from being idle, is the price of this ship. So say we're going to be using this for PVE in HiSec, we are guaranteed to have at least a ship worth 1 billion ISK. Basically it's going to be guaranteed 1.2, 1.3 billion ISK, because no one's going to be flying around an empty hull. These ships are always expensive because of the hull price. So these, like, if a ganker wants to get a kill and they want to get their kill board with good ISK on their kill board, they just have to attack a Marauder. It's as simple as that, because they know they're going to get a big kill. It's not like, oh, okay, you can attack an Apocalypse. It's not going to be such a big kill. It could have a blink fit. It doesn't have a blink fit. It could be worth it. Could be like very expensive. Could be pretty cheap. Marauders, they're always expensive. And often people do, because they're expensive, the rich people who buy these Marauders, because they're very expensive by default, they're going to be then the people who also buy expensive modules. Like I bought this Centum C-type Multispectrum Energized membrane. This large armor repair too is pretty cheap. Imperial Navy plates, like I'm already got an expensive ship. Why not put a bit more expensive modules on it? Because there's it's not proportionately in relation to the hull price worth that much. So that's a big problem with the Marauders, is that, or downside, not a problem, but a downside. If you have to consider when you're buying one, you are going to be a gank target. People are going to want to gank you a lot more here. And just being in a Tech 2 fitted Marauder is enough to get ganked, because people get ganked all the time in Tech 2 fitted Marauders, because people like to gank because it's fun. They want to gank for the fun. And there's just, it's not that it's a cheap fit, it's just that, well, I got a 1 billion plus is killed. That's so cool that people brag about it. You know, that's the whole like point. People gank these kind of ships. And then the salvage also is pretty good if they salvage the hull, but they're always going to get a good big kill, so you're going to be a big target. And it's also easier to gank them in a way is that you are put in place with the Bastion module, so you're not as mobile as other battleships. So it's more risk that you can get caught. And also, when you've not got Bastion module, you've not got like a really great buffer. It's still a decent buffer with these plates. I've got this good decent buffer, but when you go from gate to gate, you're not going to have the biggest amount of buffer. So you could get killed on gates. You're not going to have the really crazy tank bonuses unless you use the Bastion module while you're getting ganked. And then you're going to have to try to tank a whole fleet of gank ships, which is probably not going to work out too well for you. That's the main thing I would say. Gank problems and being in place, and they sort of are intertwined, because of being put in place, you're sort of more risk of a gank target, but also because of the price of the hull. Otherwise, these are extremely powerful battleships, really good DPS and range and tank. You're going to be able to handle L4 missions with ease, and the reason I think these are really worth it for PvE is because they do everything with such ease. There's actually not so many activities in HiSec that challenge these ships because they're just so powerful. L4 missions, they're way too easy for these ships. You just tank them, no problem. You don't even have to think when you're doing L4 missions in a Marauder. The thing is, they do them so good, so easily, and so quickly. And do something quickly, you can do more of them every hour, more ISK per hour. The only activity I would say in HiSec that challenges Marauders is Triglavian hunting. Triglavian hunting is when you have these roaming Triglavian fleets that are invading New Eden. There, Marauders can be pushed to the limit. But like, say I'm in a fit like I've got here, I can just use one armor repair and I can do like event sites. Just like, well, I don't even have to think. I'm just able to do these battleship-based event sites. So you're never really going to be challenged unless you're doing certain select activities such as Triglavian hunting. But the thing is, they do them so quickly and so efficiently that, in a way, they're worth it because you do get earn more ISK per hour. And I think that these ships, in proportion to their price, I think these ships' price in proportion to their power is definitely worth it. Even though they are very expensive ships, I think that, say, like, let's take a Rattlesnake. A Rattlesnake is a ship that is very expensive. You see here, 1.1 billion ISK. It's more expensive than a Kronos. A Kronos, in most situations, is going to be more powerful than a Rattlesnake. Rattlesnakes can have really good passive tank and a big buffer, which a Kronos can't have, but this will easily get more damage than a Rattlesnake, easily get more active tank than a Rattlesnake at a lot less cost. So in a way, it's a lot smarter to go with a Kronos than a Rattlesnake. It's just the way it is with the pirate battleships. Let's say we can go with the Imperial. Imperial is a lot cheaper, but it's not a whole lot cheaper than a Kronos, and a Kronos is really powerful. Imperial has some unique qualities, being very good at warping, very fast, but the Kronos is a really powerful ship. Good tank, good DPS, good range. If you want good tank, good DPS, good range, go for Marauder. They're not the most mobile ships, but they're really powerful. Speaking of mobility, they are not mobile per se, but they do have a bonus that is really important. That they have their micro jump drives, speed, or the time for them to recharge lowered. So you can see a large micro jump drive. We'll put it here. These recharge times are greatly reduced to, I think it is 54 seconds, and depends on skills a bit. Usually they're going to be a lot longer. So these are a way to transport your Marauders or move around your Marauders through space a lot quicker than other ships would be. So they do have even their buffs to mobility as well. It's not just DPS and tank. They do have select buffs to mobility, but generally speaking, they are a bit slow because they have to stick in place. They're not naturally slow ships, but they do have one trick up their sleeve where they can use these large micro jump drives a lot quicker than other ships that have 90-second cooldown. They can 54-second cooldown a lot quicker. So I think they're really worth it. They take a lot of skills to train. That is a downside to them. Having to use battleship level 5 skills is a big requirement. Plus, having to have the advanced weapon upgrades to level 5. This is a big skill to train. So there's a lot of investment in terms of the price, a lot of investment in terms of the skills, and then you have to worry about being, immobile for a short period of time, and then being a bigger gank target in general. But for those prices, for paying those prices, you get a ship that outclasses every other battleship in terms of DPS, tank, range, and just pure active tank. You are so powerful here. You are so powerful in these ships. You're going to be able to run all PVE activities so smoothly. Event sites, no problem. Missions, no problem. Any kind of, or almost any kind of new content that comes in HiSec, you're going to be able to do it pretty much solo, because or anything that is intended for solo, you're going to guarantee to be able to do it really easily, because this is the most powerful ship essentially you can have in HiSec in terms of combat capabilities. The bigger ships than this would be then capital ships, but you can't use capital ships in HiSec. These are the biggest ships you can use in HiSec. That are combat ships, are battleships, and these are the top of the tier battleships. So if you're a HiSec player, this is probably something you would want to aim someday for. It doesn't mean you have to aim for it directly, because it takes a long time to accumulate the instant skills to fly it. But I definitely think this is a good investment, because you will have very good use out of having a Marauder. They're just able to just steamroll anything in HiSec. So I think Marauders are worth it. A really good ship to have, a really well worth investment. I do not at all regret training my Marauders skills to level 5, or getting the advanced weapon upgrades to level 5, or many of the battleship skills to level 5, because these ships are just so powerful beasts. So if you're having doubts of whether or not to use a Marauder for HiSec PvE, I'll definitely say that it is worth it. Previously, it was not as clear cut, because before, Marauders didn't actually get the DPS buff that they have now. So they actually, in some instances, had less DPS than other battleships. Like a Rattlesnake can get more DPS than this. So in those kind of situations, then it wouldn't be as worth it, because the main thing then is that they were really tanky. But often a Rattlesnake or some other kind of battleship could tank good enough so that the price was worth it. Battleships like the Rattlesnake as well also costed less before. Now they cost more. So it's a lot less an obvious choice, and the prices have changed a lot in the Marauders' favours. So before, the Marauders were a lot worse. Now they're a lot better. They're as of recent times, for the last couple of years, they've been a lot better. So before, when I got my first Marauder, I was a bit sketchy whether I'd use it, because it was a bit worse in terms of DPS compared to my Barghest or Rattlesnake I used for missions. They were still really tanky though. But definitely now, after they buffed it a couple of years ago, it is 100% worth it, in my opinion. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That was a bit of a love rant about Marauders. These are really cool ships that I definitely think a lot of people should consider training into. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later.